What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, we are going over an excerpt from Betrayer, a novel that pits Guilliman against his brothers Angron and Lorgar. This has all been a shadow crusade to take down Ultramar, one of the most heavily defended and powerful areas of the Imperium, and here we finally get to the climax of it all, a duel between Lorgar and Guilliman. So without further ado, let's dive right in. The brothers dueled in the stone street, their boots kicking up clouds of alkaline dust. Gone was any notion of humanity or mercy from either warrior. Here, at last, were two men that despised one another, fighting to end each other's lives. In the eyes of Guilliman, Lorgar saw a wealth of the purest, deepless hatred. A hatred not formed from one action and one event, but a chemical cauldron of emotion strong enough to twist even the calmest, most composed demigods in the Imperium. Anger flared in those eyes. But it was more than anger. It was rage. Frustration tainted it further. The desperation of not understanding why this was happening, and the ferocity of one who still believes he might find a way to stop it. Hurt. Somehow seeing the hurt in the eyes of Guilliman was the worst of all. This wasn't the pure rage of Corax on the killing fields, the fury of a brother betrayed. This fury was saturated into something much harsher and much more complex. It was the pain of a builder, an architect, a loyal son who had done all that was ever asked of him, and had seen his life's work die in foolish, spurless futility. Lorgar knew the feeling. He had known it since he knelt in the ashes of the perfect city, the entire settlement destroyed by Guilliman's fleet on the Emperor's orders. For the first time in all the years of their wildly desperate lives, Lorgar Aurelian and Rabute Guilliman connected as equals. To his amazement, the shock leaving him cold-blooded, Lorgar felt ashamed. In his brother's face, he finally saw real hate, and in that moment, he learned a lesson that had evaded him all these decades. Guilliman had never hated him before. The Ultramarine had never undermined his efforts, never hidden his sneers while presenting false indifference, never held a secret joy over humbling Lorgar's religious efforts in Monarchia, in the Great Crusade beyond. Guilliman hadn't hated him. Not until now. This was hate. This was hatred in totality, fueled by a fortune of pathos. This was a hatred deserved, and it was a hatred that would see Lorgar dead, with the song unfinished and the false emperor still enthroned at the head of an empire he didn't, in his ignorance, deserve to lead. The bearer of the word felt a sudden, burning need to explain everything, to justify himself, to tell how all this was necessary, to enlighten humanity. The rebellion, the war, the heresy, the truth of reality was foul, but it had to be told. The gods were real, and they needed man. The human race could rise in union and immortality as the favored race of the Pantheon, or die as the Eldari once died centuries before for the sin of ignorance. Calth. That word was a weapon. Guilliman breathed it, infesting it with the same hatred coloring his eyes. Calth. Jerza. Callus, Crorum's Landing, Evereth 5, Quickhama, Tycor, Amurata. How many of my worlds, Lorgar? How many? Lorgar parried another swing, spinning his Crozius like a heavy retort. Guilliman blocked it as easily as Lorgar had blocked the punch. Their blows rang out across the battle, the way temple bells called the faithful to worship. Calth, Guilliman said again. No words now, brother. No reply for what your legion has done across the 500 worlds. The mark of Calth, Guilliman made the title into an accusation. Reserved dignity even flavored his wrath. He refused to fall into the emotional madness of a berserk killer, instead fighting with a fury that burned cold. Guilliman slammed his hands together, catching the falling maul with a harsh whine of protesting energy fields. Holding it there, he looked past their joined weapons and into the eyes of his brother. Look at me. Look at my face. Do you see the mark of Calth? His patrician's features were a handsome and stately stern way, even when twisted by anger, but he could never be considered as made in the Emperor's image to the degree that played over Lorgar's tattooed visage. The only difference between Guilliman now and the Guilliman that had stood in the dust of Monarchia was a fine threading of dark veins alongside the Primarch's throat and cheeks, scarcely noticeable to any but those who knew him best. Void exposure. The Ultramarine refused to release the weapon, despite lightning dancing down his heavy gauntlets. Lorgar gripped Aluminum's haft as the energy rippled down its length, biting at his gloved hands and unsettling fire into the parchments bound to his shoulder guards. Void exposure, when you killed one of my worlds, and the fleet above it. Lorgar didn't spit back with harsh words. He shook his head, pitting his strength against his brother's. Guilliman's statesman's smile played across his features. You've changed. Lorgar grunted at his brother's accusation. So, everyone tells me. This time it was Lorgar who disengaged. He pulled Illuminarium free and snuffed a fist to the sternum for taking the risk. The blow sucked all the breath from his body, cracked his breastplate, and left him with a bloody smile at the poetic justice. He cracked his brother's breastplate in the perfect city, and now the favor was returned. Fate really was laughing at him. First blood to me, said Guilliman. The pity in the voice that was acid in Lorgar's ear. He tried to speak, tried to breathe, and he could do neither. The song had never sounded more wrong. Guilliman's hands scrabbled and skittled across the armor, seeking a stranglehold to end the fight quickly. Lorgar repulsed him with a projected burst of telekinesis, weak and wavering, with the song still so detuned, but enough to send his brother staggering. The maul followed, its power field tailing lightning as Lorgar hammered it into the side of Guilliman's head with the force of a cannonball. There was a crack that wouldn't have shamed a pearl of thunder. There's your mark of Calth, Lorgar replied, backing away to catch his breath. Air sawed in and out of his lungs. He could already taste blood. Guilliman's blow had broken something inside him, several ribs at least, and likely something more vital. He dragged a breath and exalted it as blood ran down the front of his armor. Both Primarchs faced each other beneath the gray sky, one bleeding internally, the other with half of his face lost to blood sheeting from a fractured skull. Enjoy that scar, Lorgar fought for his smile. It will be with you until your dying day. He threw his arms wide, taking in the dying city around him. Why chase me, Roboot? Why? Your fleet will fall against the Tri-Saigon and you will die down here. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance, Kerr. Surely someone has told you that. The word-bearer spat blood again. But why come? Why come at all? Courage. Guilliman walked forwards, ignoring his wound, and he didn't need to struggle for a smile. It came just as easily as breathing. Courage and honor, Lorgar, two virtues you have never known. And with that being said, that is the end of this reading from the novel Betrayer. This is just the tip of the iceberg as the battle between Guilliman and Lorgar continues. We see that both Primarchs are not standing down. Both Guilliman and Lorgar aren't known to be expert combatants, so here we see the two kind of going toe-to-toe, mano a mano against each other, neither one of them letting down, but also both capable of dealing devastating blows and also coming out almost as if they're fighting for something much more than what they're talking about here. So again, guys, I greatly recommend you guys check out the rest of this excerpt from the novel Betrayer. But for now, let me know what other excerpts from other novels you want me to cover. And again, thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you then. Peace.
Oh, what if you could put my freedom back?